Welcome and welcome back. I am your host, Bernadette of BernadetteJackson.com, and you are listening to the Bernadette Jackson Podcast, where we are redefining how the world views women with daddy issues by discussing topics, sharing stories, and gaining insight, all from the perspective of a fatherless daughter. Today's episode is going to be my commentary on the episode of Iyanla Fix My Life with Lisa Ray McCoy. I stumbled across this show, I want to say maybe last month, and I didn't even mean to watch it actually, but it came up and I was into it maybe about 5 minutes in when I realized that Lisa Ray McCoy was a fatherless daughter, and just the way she described her life with her dad before he died, and then after her dad died, her relationship with her mom, and then as she got older with her daughter really intrigued me. It was a classic example of how your fatherlessness can cause you to have the types of relationships that you know you don't want to be in, but you don't know how to change it. And so I believe that her reaching out to Iyanla to try and help her with her family dynamic was her really starting to say to herself that she had had enough of the types of relationships that she was having, and just wanting to have a better relationship with both her mom and her daughter, and hoping that the interaction with Miss Iyanla and the work that they do there was going to be able to mend what had been broken over so many years. So Lisa Ray describes herself as a daddy's girl, and she says that she was very spoiled by her father. And I can tell just from the conversations with Lisa and her mom, Katie, that her mother really resented her relationship with her father. I think that Katie wanted to be praised and loved and covered and adored the way Lisa was, and she wasn't. And so because Katie received this kind of ill treatment from Lisa Ray's dad, and it was such a stark contrast to the way Lisa Ray was treated every day, she resented her own daughter. And it really kind of was an interesting dynamic because, you know, Katie admits to being controlled by her husband. And I believe that the way he was with her, the controlling behavior, as well as the constant cheating and the mistreatment, it really made her bitter and out of touch to how Lisa Ray felt after her father died. I think that because of the type of relationship that Lisa Ray's mom had with her husband, that she could not understand that Lisa Ray would have mourned him as deeply as she did. I think that she really projected a lot of her feelings about her husband onto her daughter. And I think maybe in essence really was just like cold and callous to the fact that he should have been mourned or should have been loved and adored at all, because her relationship with him was nothing like what it was with Lisa Ray and her father. Lisa said that when she was young, she didn't even understand the dynamic that her parents had. All she knew was that her father always gave her what she wanted, and that anytime her mom said no to her, if she went to her father and asked her father, he would give it to her. And that is really all she cared about. And I don't know that she actually tried to play one of her parents against the other, but that's exactly how it happened, because it really was just Lisa disregarding what her mom said and just going to her father anytime her mother said no. And because Lisa Ray's mom was controlled by her husband, anything that she said to Lisa in regards to discipline or how she wanted her to behave, if it was not in alignment with what her husband said, then it just was completely disregarded. And I think that the idea of her voice not being heard in that relationship and her continuing to have to endure the cheating, the lying, the control, and then not even being able to parent the way she wanted to, I think it really took its toll on Lisa. So now, as they are both adults, they're both women, Lisa Ray being an adult, her mom being much older, and Lisa Ray's daughter, Kai, when you see the dynamic of the relationship that they all have, it's just generation after generation of women who have complicated relationships with their mom and who really just don't understand how to be vulnerable enough to get really clear about how they felt growing up and what might have been able to make the relationship so much better. So when we see the conversations that they have had unfold in the episode, it really does hit home how much a father not being in the home or being taken away from his daughter at a young age can affect every other relationship that she has. And so Lisa Ray has said that she really didn't have a great relationship with her daughter either. And her daughter, in turn, was also a fatherless daughter. So now this is 3 generations of fatherless daughters in this home. And when we hear about Kai, Lisa Ray's daughter, we hear how she buries her emotions so deeply that she admits that she's nonchalant and unfeeling about everything, and that she used to be a child that would really be super emotional about things and would act out when she felt that she was not being believed, or when she felt that her mother wasn't paying any attention to her. And instead of her mom understanding that her acting out was a cry for help, she took it as disrespect. And in taking it as disrespect, she decided that disciplining her daughter would be the best course of action, as opposed to hearing what her daughter was saying and trying to understand where the feelings were coming from. And so the first time that Lisa Ray sent her daughter away was due to Kai maybe getting in trouble at school, if I remember correctly. And I'm not really sure what was going on in Lisa Ray's life at the time. However, she felt that she just could no longer handle Kai's outbursts and her disciplinary problems. And because Kai looked at it as she really just wanted to feel loved by her mom, and her mom was working so much that she just didn't have the time, that she didn't know what she could have done that was so bad that it would have made her mother send her away. And so when she was able to come back, I believe that she decided that she wasn't going to be emotionally expressive anymore. And in doing that, she just grew to become super unfeeling and nonchalant in all of the things that she did. And it was definitely a complaint from friends and family members, and I believe also significant others, that she just didn't seem to care about anything at all. But when you hear Kai talk about her relationship with her mom, one of the the first things that she talks about is being sent away and not understanding what she could have done that was so wrong that being sent away was the only answer. And it didn't just happen one time, but it happened twice. The second time she was sent away, she was sent to a military school, if I'm not mistaken. And it was also around the time when Lisa Ray's career was really taken off. So she didn't have the time to be going to the school to speak to teachers or to the principal about what was going on. And she needed for her daughter to get in line. And so her way of this happening was to just send her to a school that would help her to manage her anger and to be put in a program that really was the type of structure that taught her discipline. And it kind of just reiterated to Kai, Lisa's daughter, that her emotions and how she felt and what she was going through was not important to her mom. And it kind of just continued, I think, and I believe honestly that this was really just a result of Lisa Ray's relationship with her mother, Katie. Because, Lisa Ray says all the time that she wanted to have a better relationship with her mom, but it just never happened. And a lot of it had to do with the way Katie viewed Lisa in the relationship as a result of Lisa Ray's father kind of pitting one against the other. It's very clear when you speak to both, or when you hear both Katie and Lisa Ray speak about their relationships with Lisa Ray's dad, Katie's husband, that they did not have the same experience. It was almost as if they were talking about two different people. And because Lisa Ray had the type of relationship that Katie wanted to have with her husband, she absolutely resented her daughter. And I think that after her husband died, she decided that she was now going to be the one that was going to have all of the control that she had never had in any of her relationships. And it just kind of speaks to really how she handled Lisa, especially right after her father died and in the years after that when Lisa was still grieving. I believe that Lisa really would have benefited from having a more loving relationship with her mom. And I think in those years, those months and those years after her dad died, she really just needed the love and support of her living parent. But her mom, Katie, could not offer that to her because I believe that she really felt that she was finally free from the oppressive relationship that she had had with her husband, and really had the idea that, she was going to be able to live her life for her now, and that everything that she was unable to do in terms of raising Lisa the way she wanted to raise her, she was now going to have the opportunity to do that. So she mentioned just always butting heads with Lisa in their relationship, and there being a lot of resistance from Lisa with what her mom wanted her to do because it was so different than what she was used to. And it really just kind of goes to show you how when you deal with trauma and when you deal with abuse, whether it's emotional or physical or psychological, it really does manifest in you the type of defense mechanisms and behaviors that make having a healthy relationship with a person, even if you say you love them, so hard. And I really like how Iyanla had sat each of them down to kind of get their impression about how they felt about the other ladies, and also what their perspective was on their relationship with Lisa with her father and Katie with her husband. And when you hear them talk about it, you can hear the hurt from all of the women. They all were really hurt by both of the women, whether it was Lisa being hurt by both her daughter and Katie, or Katie being hurt by her daughter and granddaughter. It really just showed that all of them wanted the same thing, and it was to be seen, it was to be heard, to be cherished and supported in the relationship. And none of them were able to do that for each other because it just wasn't something that was ever mimicked for them. It was never something that was experienced. And so it was very hard for them to be able to offer that because their relationship had never existed in that space before. So when I was listening to this episode, it really was interesting. It had me, had my attention for the entire episode, and I didn't even realize all this time that Lisa Ray McCoy was a fatherless daughter. And so just the dynamics of the relationship and how they were able to, at the end, at least acknowledge that yes, they wanted more from each other. Yes, they wanted a healthy relationship, but there was something in each of them that they needed to fix. And the fact that they were able to finally begin to see clearly how the dynamics of their relationship had caused them to really just be so distant with each other, and what role they had to play in how things were, but also just in understanding that, yes, things happened to them, and it was unfortunate events, a lot of it, but it did not need to define how they interacted going forward. So I really enjoyed this episode. If it's not one that you saw and you have access to it, I would encourage you to watch it just to kind of see, what a complicated mother relationship can look like when you're looking at it through the lens of like 2 or 3 different generations. It's really interesting to see how Katie, the matriarch of the family, and her resentment for Lisa for experiencing from her husband, Lisa's dad, a type of love that she never received from him, and how she reacted to Lisa, and how Lisa in turn was with her daughter Kai, and just how the generational curse of fatherlessness has plagued this family for 3 generations, and all of the fatherless daughter trigger points that are really spoken about in this episode. It's really fascinating. It really had me riveted, honestly, because, just the passion and hearing their stories. And then finally, for them to really have the breakthrough that they had, it really was an interesting story. So I just wanted to share with you how fatherlessness can cause not only for you to have the cycle repeat itself generation after generation, especially if it goes unchecked and unhealed, but also how it affects your relationship with your mom as well, and how that can then cause you to not have the type of relationship that you may want to have with your children because you never experienced the type of love and support in your relationship that you wanted with your own mother. So again, it was really an interesting relationship. And if you saw the episode, I'd love to hear what you thought about it, if you picked up on any of the things that I said. And as always, you can always reach me on IG at Bernadette N. Jackson. That's BERNADETTENJACKSON. And you can also contact me through the How Can I Help tab on my IG bio. If there is anything that you would like for me to discuss in this podcast, or if there's a question about fatherlessness that you would like me to address, you can always fill out that form there and I will see it, and you might hear your question or your topic on an episode of the Bernadette Jackson Podcast. I'm your host, Bernadette. Thank you for listening, and I will see you in the next one.